host with me, Ibrahima. And tonight we turn our attention to a new and emerging force in the Gambian public life, a generation of builders who are choosing to shape the country's future not through politics alone, but through competence, innovation, and renewed sense of responsibility. For decades, national development in the Gambia has been framed almost exclusively through the lens of government action, donor support, and political promises. But across the country, a different story has been unfolding. One led by Gambians who are creating jobs, building institutions, investing in people, and proven that development is not an abstract idea. It is something you build with your hands, your mind, your integrity, and your commitment to service. The Builders Project represents that shift. It is a consortium of government experts, entrepreneurs, and sector leaders who believe that the private sector must play a role in shaping the country's economic future. They come from healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, hospitality, technology, and together they are demonstrating what is possible when vision is matched with discipline and action. Tonight, conversation is not just about business, it's about nation building. It's about the values that drive development. It's about the kind of leadership that our country needs in this moment. Leadership rooted in competence, accountability, and a belief that Gambians can build the system we have long waited for. So, as I said with its chairperson, Dr. Ismail Abadi, who has been here on this show when we started, we are not simply discussing their individual achievements. We're exploring a broader question. What does it mean to build a country from the ground up? And what happens when a generation decides that waiting is no longer an option? The future must be constructed, not wished for. Dr. Ismail Abadi, welcome to the Dialectic Space podcast once again. How are you doing, sir?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Ibrahima. Ramadan Mubarak. And as I told you the last time, it's been honestly a joy just seeing what dialectic space has meant to Gambians all over the world. So anytime you're kind enough to share your platform with me and so many other incredible Gambians, it's always a pleasure. So it's really good connecting again.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I'll just add that Ismaila has some of his colleagues who might be joining us momentarily, and so right now I'm going to begin this conversation with him. And as you know, the Builders is an important project that has been started in the Gambia, and in fact, they recently had a visit with the president of the country at the State House, and a lot of people have been asking questions about what this is all about. And I thought, considering what I do on this show and how interested I am with initiatives as important as this, that I'll invite them to come on the show for us to dive into the ideas, the individuals behind the project, but also what the project seeks to accomplish as an overarching purpose. So, Ismaila, I hope hopefully we can begin from there. Talk to us about the genesis of the initiative, how it came about, and who are the individuals behind it, and really we can build up from there.
No, thank you, Ibrahima. And I think what's interesting about the Builders is maybe this past month was when our first public, I guess, appearance, quote unquote, happened. But the Builders Association actually stems back to last year. We actually celebrated 1 year as an association called the Builders Association, which I was either fortunate to be chosen in the position of leadership because the collective is made up of leaders across every sectors. And I'll tell you why. I think historically, Gambia has always had stars. I think individuality has been honestly part of our ethos as a nation where they feed us to be great as an individual and then you take your immediate family alone. But oftentimes, if you're in a position of leadership, if you're building in Africa, building in Gambia, you realize that one, it's lonely building alone, but also there's power in building together, forming a collective. So last year, a few of us Gambians, started coming around and saying, hey, what could happen if we decided to become more than just an individual? What could happen if we decided to play the infinite game? We have this philosophy that we keep talking about where there's things, some people that play the finite game meaning you build based on season for a particular reason, and people who play the infinite game who build in every season without a reason because you know the nation's future, the future generation will depend. We come together and form like an action or.
We've lost
Oh,
Ismaila for a second. Ismaila, are you with me?
yes, I'm back. I think
Okay.
I'm back. Right.
Yes. Yes.
So transitioning from individualistic ideas in terms of how do you become great as an individual to coming together as a collective and forming an association that we feel like we were brought together on three principles. One, somebody who is competent, universally agreed that you are good at what you do. It could be in agriculture, it could be finance, it could be in the CSO space. You are competent. Number two, you have high moral character, meaning if I am standing next to Ibrahima, I am a reflection of his character. He is a reflection of my character.
Mhm.
And last but not the least, being compatriots, meaning do you love nation to a point where nation comes first before everything else.
Mhm.
So the Builders Association was formed around that ethos by 33 individuals last year that span from across every sectors. One of the biggest misconceptions we have is we're a business association. We are actually not. Yes, some of us are entrepreneurs in the private sector space, but we have people that are in the legal field. We have people that are in the CSO space, people in development finance. So it's a collective. So that's the genesis of the Builders, people that came together. And if we talk about the idea of being a builder, we oftentimes see it as four phases where there's an ignition part where I feel like enlightening the collective to know that, hey, it's about time that we take stewardship of our future, but also reclaiming professional and entrepreneurial excellence, where what's good doesn't have to be non-Gambian because there is some homegrown Gambian. And then building on that reclamation, you could then start transforming industries across different sectors, but make it sustainable long term, where you actually contribute towards economic development. So that's the ethos of the Builders Association, 33 founders that came together last year to form the association. And that's what led to the opportunity we had where the Builders Association was part of a greater collective of business owners who had the opportunity to engage with the state and the president as well too. So what most people saw on the outside were members of the Builders who are business owners being part of a collective of 50 equally bright and very talented Gambian businesses who came together to try to get a diagnosis of what is the state of the Gambian business owner who's maybe under the age of 50. What are some of the challenges that we all face? Typically, it's the same collective. But also across Africa, we know that the Gambians are talented. We could compete with any African country. But we also know that if you are in the business sector and you want to contribute to national development, you have to be the agent or an instrument of the state, meaning every African society that leverages the private sector, the young, the competent, you actually have a competitive advantage. But oftentimes, there's not enough engagement to one, show what we're capable of doing, but also oftentimes there's a misconception that the state may not be as responsive as well to the needs of the young business people because there's a lack of awareness. So that was just step one, which I think you definitely always want to commend people that listen. And that engagement now obviously builds on a greater philosophy that we have to find people that are building amazing things and bring them into the ecosystem in a structured way. Because the Builders is an association. We're bounded by a constitution that guides how we bring on new members as builders, the term limits. So we've structured the company to reflect also associations that we believe can remain nonpartisan, can be rooted in nation first, can be rooted in competence, but also we're not arrogant to say that only we are builders because there's people that have built before us, there's people that are building now, but there's also a younger generation of Gambians now that could see building and what it is in front of them to aspire to build this for future generations. So just a brief genesis of the builders.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that laying out that foundation. Amadou, welcome to the Dialect Space podcast as well. I don't know if you can hear me, but we've been waiting for you to come on. Amadou, Chico, if you can hear me, can you acknowledge me, please? Yeah, it seems Amadou cannot hear
Amadou the
us
builder.
at all.
Chico the builder.
But yes, I think he's well. He seems to be active, but he just cannot hear. I'm
He's,
not
he's,
sure he
he's,
can hear
he's,
what I was saying.
he's blinking, so I know
Yeah,
he's on.
yeah, I'm sure he's on. But anyway, Amadou, can you hear us? No, he cannot hear us.
Yeah, I don't think he could hear us. I'll text him to
Yes.
let him know that
Okay,
he's not
cool.
audible.
I'll just put it on the side. Put him on the side then, for us to continue. But Ismaila, so talk to us about which is always the most interesting part, and whoever is behind the idea of putting the lamp as a signature or as a symbol of what the builders are trying to do is very intelligent because, I mean, this lamp behind you signifies a lot of things for me because I remember when I was young, when electricity will always run out, my mom would always give us that to light for us to read. And so,
Yeah.
in many ways, it's a reminder of, for me, that struggle for electricity in those days, but also opportunity that it has offered me or has availed me to learn, even in that uncomfortable situation. So that's
Sure.
what it means to me. I'm interested to know what it really means to you all, such that anytime people see the builders, this is also branded on the photos, and people always have it with them. Who came up with the idea, and what does it really mean?
No, I think it was a collective. And I think throughout history, symbolisms are very important. And I think it's part of African society. When we were coming up with the association, we chose two powerful symbols that we felt like embodied the values and aspirations that we have. The first one, actually, if you notice, when we were part of the collective that went to see the president, we had a level, a builder's level, which is what we call, which for us represents the balance, the precision, but the integrity. Because a builder's level doesn't lie. And I think that even the concept of being a builder, I often say if you are a true builder, you never care who the master architect is. Your job is to build. If it's building the staircase, you want to make sure the staircase is straight. If it's building the table, you want to make sure the table is straight. So you just want to make sure you are the best carpenter and you are building to the best of your ability to contribute to the collective. So the first symbol of the association is that builder's level, but also it's a commitment to unwavering integrity, but also being very balanced in decision making, because even our collective, we're made up of very strong personalities, leaders in their own right. So every approach, every decision, we have to balance it with precision to make sure that it embodies everything. But the oil lamp, I think, is very symbolic because most of the times it may represent wisdom, guidance, but also enlightenment. We see the oil lamp as something that illuminates darkness because there's also a pledge from us as builders to light the path, for the future. There were people who lit the path in us. It's even hard to find an oil lamp in this day and age, but it also has this symbol that, think about it as a candle or a light never loses its brightness by lighting another candle or light next to it. And it goes back to the whole idea of moving away from Gambian stars, meaning one builder standing with a lamp could be seen, but you get 33 people with lamps lit, then you're forming a Gambian galaxy. But I think the notion of enlightenment, the notion of owing, our due to the future generation.
I can hear you, Ismail. Are you with me?
Yeah, owing our due to the future generation is why that lamp is so symbolic. And if you notice, oftentimes most of us as builders will have it at our place of work. So every single day when we are building, we are reminded of the responsibility that we have to nation. And I think that's why we really hold these symbols really, really dear to us, because it does represent something very meaningful to every single builder.
Well, Amadou came on, and it seems he's gone again. Whatever internet that you have, you better extend it to Amadou such that he is also able to. He is also able to be here.
Yeah, he'll join. He'll definitely. I'm sure he'll connect very
Yes,
soon.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I hope so too. But Ismail, also talk to us about the constituent members of the builders. Obviously, you've talked about the sort of membership you have in terms of civil society, in terms of individuals in the social entrepreneurship track, or just entrepreneurship. Maybe you even have policy actors too. But at its very core, what forms the builders, and also in terms of expanding, what are you looking for? How do people also become part of the builders as well?
Yeah, so I think oftentimes I say if you were to name Gambian businesses or leaders who are really leading the way in their field, those are the people that we want in our collective
Right.
as well too. So
Guys, can you
and
hear
there's
me?
now people that,
Chico, can
yes,
you
we
hear
can hear you.
us? Amadou, can you hear us?
Amadou has better lighting than I do, but I have better audio and internet. Chico, can you hear us?
No, he can't.
Okay.
He can't.
He
Yeah.
can't hear us for some reason, right? So yes, so real
Yes, I
estate.
can hear. I can hear.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Uh,
Finally.
did you
Finally.
hear the question? Maybe you could answer. He was
Can you guys
asking.
hear me?
Yes, we could hear.
Yes. Yes, we can
Can
hear
you?
you. Are you with us? Yeah,
Can he?
his internet is in Sukuta or somewhere right
Gosh,
now. This is because even the reception is
my
just so
internet
bad.
is going on and off.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure you'll be able to.
Mobile internet.
Yeah, it's
you're
okay.
you're you're coming in and out.
Hopefully it works.
But in terms of just the diversity of our group, mostly times, especially now, you're seeing a lot of us when somebody has an event, somebody is building something, we've started building together. So the likes of Bubakar Jaite, Kere Finder, Sehu Balajo of AB Blinds and HMD Charity, Omar Jallo of Tendako, Momar Tal of Trapingo, Mangalo, Dr. Georgia Nur Tambedu, who is the recent executive director of the TEP Fund. She's actually a vice chairperson. People like Chico, Amadou Chico. So 33 people that are powerhouses. Moses Sonko with Cashew, Smiling Coast Cashew Processing Factory. Just individuals that some people actually reached out to in the beginning, but also we plan on expanding. And I'll tell you one of the features of the association. We were very intentional because building anything is difficult in Gambia and Africa. It takes a while for an association to really plant it, but it takes time with founding members to really get to understand each other because all of us come from very diverse backgrounds. And for us, it's getting to know our stories. I mean, I've been so inspired by some of the builders. I think they are a better Gambian story just based on what they've been able to build. But we built in our constitution that it takes a builder to find a builder. So the same way we have 33 founders, every year a builder actually nominates somebody else that they feel like represents the values of the association and brings them in, and the collective votes them in 100%. And I think that's very, very important because once again, you know what we're looking for, and you're very intentional about into the collective
Amadou,
to also
We're getting a lot of interference. If the internet is not going to allow you, it's okay. I think Ismaila is, perhaps more better
yeah,
position in terms of internet connectivity to just continue.
yeah,
And we can set up another time to have you. If the internet is
yeah.
bad from your end, we will not be able to just be having interruptions.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear us? You can hear us.
No.
I don't think he could hear us.
Yes, it's probably just drop him a message because we don't have a lot of time, and
Yeah, I
interruptions is
think
going to take a lot more from us.
Yeah, I think Chico's internet. I'll text him real quick.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ibuema, for hosting us. I'm connecting from my phone, so it keeps connecting and reconnecting.
Okay.
Sincere apologies for that. Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Perfect. I was just giving him
I can hear
a
you.
breakdown of the type of individuals who came together as founders to form the Builders Association, but our aspirations as well. Because one of the things to Ibrahim, there's builders amongst us now
All
that
right.
we're not thinking about being excellent in Gambia, but how do we export Gambian excellence? Because some of our companies are now have aspirations to enter new markets in West Africa as well. There's some builder founders who live in the diaspora who are part of the builders, because you cannot tell the Gambian story without it being a diaspora story as well. But we've been very intentional about being slow in how we grow, but also being very intentional where every builder has just as much a right in terms of who comes in. Because in Gambia, in Africa in general, when something's new, you want to be careful with how you grow it too fast. But this year, we're really looking forward to building our first layer of builders as well. But we also always realize that we are not arrogant enough to feel like we need to anoint people as builders, because you don't need to be part of the association to be committed to nation building or to be good at your own right. But we structured the association where it becomes a referral association. But still, as we were going to the president, we still believe that anybody who's building something incredible in the Gambia, there's a room for us to collaborate and just do it in a way that we don't build in seasons. And I think that's just the message we've always had in terms of being inclusive, but intentional about excellence and competence.
So how would you describe the sort of environment that the builders is operating in right now, especially considering where you guys are starting, which is the Gambia? How is the environment like in terms of, say, general support from either the public or either through the government? Because obviously, businesses operate in a framework that guarantees the sustenance of each of your respective businesses, or just really any program at all. And so I'm really curious to understand whether part of you guys' job is also to perhaps consider or looking at the possibility of creating an enabling environment where all businesses or all projects, as important as what you guys are doing, are able to thrive. So regarding policy advocacy or policy reforms, among other things.
Yep. No, I think the beauty about our association is we have individuals that are subject matter experts in different fields. I could have a very technical conversation around healthcare and what we think should happen to make it better, because these are things we were very vocal and at the forefront before even the associations came about. The same way you could talk to Mamar Tal and Moses Sonko when it comes to agriculture and things that could move it, and they are particularly in the place to be able to tell you certain things. I feel like Gambia is still a place where, as long as our generation will have to build in spite of certain things not being as perfect right now, so that the people coming behind us have the opportunity to build better and faster. And the philosophy that we have is, if it took, let's say, Momar Tal, who moved home 10 years before he broke through, and it took me 6 years because I came a little bit later, 5 years from now, if you decide to come back home to build, it should take you 2 years. So there's actually progress that's happening. And I think we really believe in this idea of playing the infinite game. Because if you're building a company to last 2 generations, 3 generations, the first 5, 6 years, you're paying school fees, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're a true builder, you have an option to either sit down and wait until things are perfect, then you'll never build. But I think that's why there needs to be a healthy relationship between the state and the powerhouse in the private sector. And I keep using the state because the state is permanent. Government change, the state is permanent. You cannot be a builder without being a partner in development with the public sector, the private sector, the donor agencies. But it's just that philosophy is like, yes, anything that is not perfect, let's identify constructive ways to improve it, but also by showing what value we are adding, because we don't have to wait till everything is perfect. But every business owner in Gambia, there are certain things that get in the way of the environment being not conducive. And oftentimes that's not a problem of the government. If there's issues finding talent, most people that are building in Gambia, finding human capital is a problem. The best human capital is outside of Gambia. Our education system is coming to hopefully feed the system, but there is a gap. Access to capital. Once again, cheap capital is not readily available. So if we're competing with other, businesses that have access to capital outside of Gambia, it becomes a limitation. So I think there is progress. And even within the state institution, there are some young people that are builders in their own right, that now if I see what you're building, like this space where it's a medium for across generation, across geographical location, multimedia platform, you are building in your own right. So I could see you and recognize the efforts that you're doing, but also focus on how do we keep building in spite of what's not perfect. And I think that's one of the most critical things, because if you have a listening ear of people that see you as a partner in development, it allows the other things to still keep going, because I think they're important when it comes to nation building, but you remain nonpartisan, you remain being a partner to the state, and you become useful, because all of us, we honestly believe that if we are giving an opportunity, Gambia is still not maximizing, our potential in terms of what we could create. But also being part of that conversation, I think, is very, very important. And even that's why the association, having individuals like Chico, who's a builder, is very critical, because Chico has lived across the continent, right? So what harnessing human potential of the small group to reach a critical mass opportunity is, we could reach that critical mass faster than most African nations. But it takes the few courageous, the few very focused individuals to do it in spite of what they get as an individual, which is why I keep mentioning we, because it's all about the collective. What can we do together? And I know Chico could probably add on to it as well too, but that's really how we're approaching giving insights to the state. Because oftentimes what we also find is there's not dialogue. We may think that the conducive is not environment, or we have answers on how to make policy systems better. But how would the policymakers know if we're not engaging them in a non-combative, constructive manner? Because then they're able to see the value that we're bringing to the table. And oftentimes we're walking the walk, we're talking the talk. So I don't have to convince you that I've dedicated or somebody else has built something that is respectable, where every Gambian, if you see it, there's a sense of pride that you feel, and that's something that we really celebrate each other, where when we see another builder doing something great, we understand that there could be more than one star. It doesn't always have to be one person who's getting all the limelight. But if Chico wins, I win. If Bob the Builder wins, I win. So that's really the mindset that we want to have.
Well, Chico, I'm just gonna try this one more time. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but Ismaila and I have been waiting patiently to have you join us. It seems you're muted. It seems you're muted. Yeah, we can hear you, Chico. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't know why. No, you're not muted. Actually, you're not muted. We just can't hear you. Can you speak now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
we can hear you.
Ah, finally, man. I don't know what was trying to hold. But you see, that's the cool part. We never give up, right? Like even
Yes.
against internet,
Yeah.
these are the disadvantages of our environment. Others have very high speed internet. They can be able to close deals online. They can do businesses online. For us, you have to battle with internet at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're happy you're
Thank
here.
you,
We
Bremo,
really,
for having us.
of course, brother. It's an honor because obviously I was just telling Ismaila before the show that I know you. I see a lot of your work online, especially with the pineapples. That's very popular, and I also know that you are a Mandela Washington Fellow. I am a fellow as well, so this is your platform as much as it's all of ours. So it's really an honor to have you on the show. So talk to us about what the builders mean to you, Chico.
Same here. Same here.
Yes, personally, and also what it means to you as a collective, together with other people that you're
Well,
involved with in
listen,
the association.
I,
Go ahead.
definitely, definitely. So for me, I've been working with high achievers for many, many years now, right? So I've seen the pattern and the challenges of what it means to be someone who's trying to do something that's never been done. May it be back home in Guinea or through the Yali network in Kenya, wherever, it was always the same. People like us who want to change our environment, who want to build something that's never been done, we're lonely. We literally are lonely. The journey is difficult. We go through challenges of going against our own family that doesn't believe in us, the environment that's not ready for what we're trying to build, and oftentimes even what you're building, you don't have the tools and the resources to make it happen. So, to me, from a psychological perspective, the mindset that drives us to do what we do, I've always been fascinated by it because I was trying to find a way for us to spread that mindset across the continent because that's what's going to make us competitive. If we can be able to change our mindset, our belief systems, believe in ourselves, believe in our dreams, and then just find people like us who are relentless about what they want to change, then we can be that ripple effect that's going to change our continent. So to me, it's part of who I am. I consider myself as a catalyst for people who want to achieve great things. That's what I feel was my purpose. Was to inspire, coach, and invest in people who want to do great things, but that no one believes it, right? That are like that black sheep in the environment. And so having overcome that myself and developed these tools, everywhere I go, I'm always drawn to find people like that. And when I came to the Gambia, the advantage was I had already been a lead trainer for the Yali program in West Africa. So there are alumni from the RLC in the Gambia that I had trained before. So I started with training. After I did my wedding with my wife, I started with training. I trained GIA, I trained the police, I trained MDI, because I wanted to find these people who want to do great things but are afraid and are hesitant and are doubtful, so that I can infuse that energy in them and say, hey, you can do it, go and try. Who do we need to connect you with? And so as I was doing this, then the pineapple thing came, and then it became what it became. But to come to where we are today, one of the few people who reached out and said, brother, I want to meet you, was Ismail. He saw and he said, I recognize something in this guy that I see in myself. And he said, I have to help him. There must be something that he maybe also needs. There must be a way for us to collaborate. And that's exactly how we met. We had coffee. And from that coffee, I think we haven't spent 2 weeks for the past year that we have not communicated. And the ideas were the same. We have something in us that we've nurtured, that we fought to be able to put out. We've built things that are very difficult in our environment, but we're alone. Who are the people who are like us, who are also going through the same, that we can come together and try to create it's a catalyst. It's more of an idea. It's a
The
vision,
vision.
right? It's a movement. How do we
Oh.
Chico,
Yeah.
Chico's internet. But yes, what he was mentioning is very true. I call it an experiment, because the same way that Gambia is an experiment, this is an experiment because once again, it goes against our inherent nature to want to do good alone.
Hmm.
And I think that in itself is almost like we're challenging ourselves. Could we be the generation who actually build together, but do it where it's not about our individual accolades, but we want to also change the way we see development without discrediting people that built before us, because all of us have inspirations. For me personally, there's people like Mohammed Jah that inspire me. There's people like Idrissa Mas Job, Uncle Taf, Mohammed Jagana, Papa Yusuf Njai. These, I'm sure there's a lot of people, my sister, Fatim Baji. These are people that inspire me because they are Gambians who've built the hard way in the Gambia, right? So those individuals may not necessarily be part of the Builders Association, but I see them laying the blueprint to show us that this is possible. So in our generation, we just want to take it where we come together and try to build more things together, but also build together. And I think you're going to start noticing something where our businesses are going to start colliding. If he has a project that healthcare could add value, we're going to build together. Because from an economic perspective, we believe that for every Gambian brand that we buy, money is going to circulate within our economy, right? If you have an idea that's a shortcut, when Chico's starting from day one, why would you let him run 200 miles when you could give him the shortcut and make it 10 miles? Because the faster he gets, the more value he could add to the society. Sharing of information, doing things that you understand it because you live in a society where communities build together. They have like a code, an unspoken language that you are my brother's keeper, you are my sister's keeper, your success is my success. And that's what Chico was saying about building that ignition. You ignite and then you reclaim and then you transform and then you sustain it. Where now our children know that our father started something. We are generation number 2 of building something better. And next thing you know, the nation itself is moving and we really become an asset to the nation and not a liability to the nation. Because oftentimes, every citizen, I believe, when you wake up in the morning, you need to ask yourself, am I an asset to the Gambia or am I a liability to the Gambia? But also, what story of Gambia do we need to tell? Because the outside looking in, if the only story that is projected outside is that of darkness, it's hiding our illumination because we know we are bright. Any Gambian, the moment you leave the borders, you shine so bright that people try to wonder what is happening in this country of 2.5 million people. But if you have a blinder's view, you think that we live in a place of perpetual darkness, and that's not our reality. So Chico, I just picked up from where you were saying in terms of the idea of it being a movement, but sparking change, being inclusive, but intentionally exclusive when it comes to excellence, because that is very, very important.
And Chico, just to add on to what Ismaila also said, I just want to also observe, that generally we've always been a very communal society, right? But the irony of our communal ties is that it is not mostly reflected when it comes to social programs, or it's not reflected when it comes to business ideas or generally around success, right? And that has always sort of struck me in many ways, because most societies you go, especially here, people want to grow together. You have something you like, okay, I don't want to be the person to continue to give you, I want to work with you to also make sure that you become sustainable by your own self, and find means that you're also going to empower other people too. But if you would also talk a little bit about that, Chico, and then you can perhaps add on to what Ismail was talking about.
Yeah, 100%. I actually think one of the advantages that we have in the Gambia is Gambians are very nice people. Gambians are some of the nicest people on the continent. It's just that when you're in a culture of poverty, right? Coming together is just increasing the problems because everyone's coming with a problem. What we need to do is we need to instill a mindset of wealth in Gambians and make everybody believe that we can actually be a wealthy nation. Because creating wealth for 2.5 million people, where you have 500,000 hectares of arable land, you have a river that goes through the middle of the country, literally, that can feed the entire nation. You are the only English speaking country in this West African region. And money speaks English, right? Money speaks English first. So we have the opportunity to build an economic hub, right? That the entire West African continent will benefit from. But we have to make our people believe that. And that's what I love about this movement, is because we who are talking, we had to do it ourselves. We had to convince people to believe in us. Even what you're doing now, Ibrahima, you have to convince people that they have something to say.
Yeah.
I am certain there are people, before they came on interview, you had to convince them
Yes.
that they had something to say. Even though maybe they had PhDs, they were very popular, they were very smart, but you had to convince them. Ismaila had to meet with almost 100 people to bring 33 of them together.
Yes.
That's 100 hours, right? Or 200 hours of coffee, discussions, and explanation that we need to do this thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So for me, it's an opportunity. We need to look at the Gambia as a country of opportunity. I saw a young Kenyan farmer, a digital farmer. He came here and was writing on his post, Gambia, the country of opportunity. And I was like, oh, look at this. Someone leaves all the way from the leading economy in East Africa, comes to the smallest nation in West Africa, and sets up here that he wants to create a farm, and he's writing to his people, this is the land of opportunity. Do you know why? Because there he knows how tough it is to start an initiative. He knows how much competition exists in those bigger economies. He knows how difficult it is to raise capital, even though the capital is there. But in the Gambia, we have, how many exchange forex bureaus do we have in Senegambia? Think about it. How many exchange forex bureaus do you have across Greater Banjul area? You're going to tell me all those people are unprofitable? It's because the money is coming in. The dollars are being sent. The tourists are coming in. So we shouldn't have a mindset in the Gambia to say that we can't come together because our parents could not come together. Our parents grew up in a different time. There was a time of fear. It was a time of anxiety. It was a time where if you were together, someone could go and betray you to the government and you get arrested. It was a time when if you had a beautiful wife and a powerful man wanted your wife, they could accuse you of something. That's not the time we live in. We live in a time where it's a TikTok generation, it's a Facebook generation, Instagram. When we collaborate, my followers follow you, your followers follow me. When we build a business together, my customers buy from you, your customers buy from me. When we invest together, my investors invest in you, your investors invest in me. And so for me, when I think of the Gambia, that's the mission that I feel that we have, is that we need to brainwash our grandparents, our children, everybody. Everybody. We need everybody to believe that it's possible. So that those who can take action now, like us, right? They come together. They fail together. Because when we fail together, we're not going to be like your brother or uncle who's going to criticize you. I won't criticize Ismaila if we fail together. I won't say, no, it's your fault, it didn't work. No, I know we did everything possible for it to work. So we're going to sit down on a drawing board and say, what can we learn from this lesson? Right? So to me, that's the opportunity we have. And we need to shut down the critics. You guys all saw me. I was going around. Anyone who would criticize me when I was doing I would face you. I would tell you, okay, let's go ahead. Why? Because I know that we're in an environment where the critics have thrived for so long without being checked. The critics have tried for so long, killing people's ideas and their momentum.
It's perspective.
We need to go after them too. Yeah, if Ismaila is doing something great and someone is going to come and criticize them, criticize constructively and bring a solution. But if you're just going to come because you hate Ismaila, because you're jealous of Ismaila, I promise you, you're going to see Chico coming after you. You're going to see someone else coming after you. Because then it's going to become the norm that, no, Ibrahima is doing something great. Let's encourage him. We're not many. We're 2.5 million people. If one of us is doing something, let's go and clap for him. And if you're going to criticize, we're gonna bash you too.
Yeah. So so
That's the opportunity I feel we have.
Thank you very much, Chico. By the way, I think I've always find you very articulate and brilliant, and I think since you started this, no, for real, I think you have a very unique ability of communicating your thoughts, and I think it's very inspirational, and a lot of people identify with it too. And I also remember vividly when you were addressing a lot of Gambians online who took issue with what you were doing in the Gambia, and I like that because I think whatever is unchecked, especially in a public platform, it becomes the truth. And in this area
Mhm.
of proliferation of disinformation and people just having issues with other people who are bold and they are unapologetic about their ideas, there is always going to be somebody that tries to make certain narrative about you stick. I go through it, but at the end of the day, it has to do with certain values I identify with. I take an issue with it and I address it. So that is something about it that I really identify and I appreciate, and I encourage you to keep it up. But Ismaila, another important aspect of what you guys are doing is this risk of politicization mostly, right? And I'm sure it has already started. There are people that will always associate you, and especially Ismaila himself. You hear in the corners of the Gambia that he has political ambitions, which, by the way, there is nothing wrong with. I think young Gambians that have ideas and are intelligent and have moral integrity and respect and all of these things, I think should absolutely get into it, even though I know that you don't have that as part of your immediate plans because I know what you do, right? But the risk of politicization of this initiative, especially when you met with the president, and
Mhm.
my question is, how do you both and collectively insulate yourself from the politics, such that you stay grounded in what you're trying to do and that you are not being compromised by the politics bit of it?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. And I think that was a lot of thought and conversation even before we went and saw the president. But I will always say that the president is the head of state. And for him to be in the room with 50 Gambian business owners that are contributing to the society, everybody who was in that room heard what the president told us. And some of the things that you're mentioning in terms of Gambians struggling, partnering together, but also Gambians, when given an opportunity to be excellent, they should be excellent. But I often say in life, Ibrahima, if you know who you are and what you believe in, somebody else won't make you something else unless that's what you are. And I
Yes.
think African society, we've gotten to a point where if you have certain tools, let's say you're a good speaker, you have a platform, we always have to put something in a box to label it.
Yeah.
But I often say that Gambia does not need more politicians, right? I think if anything, we are experiencing a renaissance era when it comes to good politicians who are young. Across every single, some of the finest people who politics is the game that they are playing. And I call it a game because it's finite. They have their own strategy. That's what they want, power and a proposal that they have for the Gambian people. As builders, we are driven by purpose and we're playing the infinite game. We would rather be known for every person who the Gambian people choose as president to see us as valuable and a partner. Because once again, if we have a national development plan, I often say that is our blueprint as builders. A builder does not care who the master architect is. The Gambian people choose the master architect. Our national development plan is our blueprint. And like I told you, if you're a carpenter, build your table the right way. If you're a tile man, build the tiles the right way because you know why you're doing it. But right now, it is virtually impossible for a collective to come together in this season where it would not be seen as political. But once again, our cornerstone, we were together for a whole year before we had the privilege of sitting with the head of state because a privilege. A lot of African nations, young business people need access to be able to get heard by the heads of the institutions. So we also cannot say that we want to participate in development, but we have to be selective in who we engage with. And the reality is, Ibrahim, I say every human being is political. Even our families are political, right? But that doesn't mean that you cannot separate what you do and what your ideology is with what do you owe to the nation, which is development. So the nonpartisan element, yes, it is going to come. But as builders in our selection process, in our ethos, in our philosophy, we know why we came together. But we also always say that we are proud of the young people who are choosing that route. Because once again, every political party right now in the Gambia has a group of Gambians that are under the age of 50 that are excellent. That is their lane. We stay on our infinite lane, we keep building. When the Gambian people select who the master architect of the nation is, we keep building. Conducive environment, not conducive environment, we keep building. Because we're building not for us, but for the future generation as well. So that's what we always say. We know our Constitution binds us to be nonpartisan, but no matter who the Gambian people select as the head of state, we are going to be a force to move the nation forward. But anybody else who may have an opinion, you could let them have their opinion. It only affects you if you are confused who you are as well. So that's always the mindset. A builder keeps building. The National Development Plan is the nation's blueprint as well. And every single person in the private sector, even the business community, we always, if you are in the business of being in business, politics is not something you mix with business in this day and age as well. But once again, we have enough politicians. But for now, our focus is very resolute. We're going to continue identifying Gambians who are building for the right reasons, who love nation, who are competent, and then we will focus, because the biggest answer is, come 2026, day after election, we'll be building the same way with the same intentionality than we are right now. But it's unfortunate that we are in a political season. And yes, things will always get political. But once again, we know why we exist, and we know how we want to go about achieving our agenda, which is an agenda for the greater good and not for any political reason.
Ismail, two questions, and I'll let you go because I want to keep it to an hour, like I promised. And the first question is that where do the diaspora fit into this in terms of, obviously the power of African diaspora in terms of remittances? That's an open secret. We don't even need to get into that. But where do diaspora fit into this? One, and then two, if you can wrap up by telling us at what level do you sort of draw the line between what sort of, for lack of a better word, what sort of appropriate government that we have, such that the builders make a conscious decision to say, if this line is crossed, we also have to make a decision to sort of, not to completely take away, but to modify the nature of the relationship that we have with the government of the day. Because if the builders are creating 1,500 to 2,000 jobs in the country, you're injecting more than $120 million dollars into the Gambian economy. That's significant, and so you become a very critical player, whether you like it or not. But governments, as we know, are not always so. In terms of how they operate, it's not always so direct. Sometimes some of them are. The idea of a state is very immoral. That's what I'm trying to put across. So, at what point, if any, do the builders also make, or are there frameworks that guide your operation in connection to the government of the day, such that on one hand you remain true to your vision, and on the other hand you do not compromise your values as an association to a government that literally is totally and completely immoral in terms of how it operates?
So I think it's always clear. The people choose the government. Any government that the people choose, the builders, our philosophy does not change. We build. And I think that's going to be tested a lot, even in who we select into the association, because I think it's very important for good things that are about national development to be outside the political space, because it's a different environment. So I say it is the responsibility of the Gambian people, because the government is the people. But whoever the state is, The builders, the same way, it's not even about being in government, Ibrahim. All of us are instruments of God first. And all of us, God chose Gambia for us to call it home. So, meaning we need to be instruments of our country. And being a partner of development is the philosophy of the builders. If not, then if you are of the opposing government and a different government is in place, you won't find a place in the builders. The builders have 33 people. Come election day, they could vote for whoever they want to vote for. But the next day, their ideology when it comes to the association is, are you competent? Do you have high character? Do you love nation? But because once again, we have enough people who are dedicating their space to the political arena, which we encourage them and we're actually proud of them because some of them are young and they're building from a political perspective, and some of them have been doing it for a very long time. The beauty is in our generation, we know most of them. They're across every single party. Anybody who's known Sidin Jai for a very long time, who's known Bakim or Bojang, Sehu Kamara, all these individuals have been brilliant for so long. They just happen to have their own ideology, and it's healthy for a nation as well too. So we allow them to do that. But the most important part of your question is the diaspora, right? The diaspora is the engine of growth in Gambia. Recently, I think just this week, Gambia was at the top of African countries where it was 21.1% of our GDP came from the diaspora through remittances, right? So we were also intentional in how we even build the builders, where there are people in the diaspora who are builders. But also for the diasporas, we always say, don't send money home, start investing your money home. And the builders have companies across different sectors that if we really harnessed that money that's coming in, not to spend it, the diasporas could participate from a thought leadership perspective. But if you are now relocating to Gambia to build, the first association that you should be able to connect to for resources and a network is the Builders Association. Because once again, there should not be a competition or separation between the Gambians in the diaspora and the Gambians who are home. People like myself, I'm uniquely positioned because I have a foot in both worlds. What I've built is a byproduct of diaspora and support. Most of my initial investors are Gambians in the diaspora. So, Ibrahim, that is the role of the diaspora. We need to think from an economic revolution. How could we harness the diaspora fallacy? Because right now, if the diaspora was intentional about their dollars or their pounds, the commercial banks, all our businesses will not be at the mercy of commercial banks giving us 21% loans and needing a house and adding all that risk, because the predatory lending is available because we're not harnessing the richest Black people in the world live in the diaspora. So from an economic perspective, if I'm in the business of pharmaceuticals, for example, I have to borrow at 21% at a bank, but my competitor is coming to Gambia with a line of credit that's maybe 4%, I cannot compete. So the diasporans have to pay attention to people that are building, and we push them by spending intentionally when we're coming home, by investing in startup companies that need capital, but also being part of the conversations in terms of selling a Gambian story that is worthwhile. That way, if our children who are not born in Gambia will have a reason to love Gambia, will have a reason to start thinking about Gambia, to come home and work in our associations. That's the most important part. But I tell people the fact of the matter is the Builders Association, we know why we exist. And if we focus on our collective and building together, any person that the Gambian people put in power should see us as this enclave of excellence that is playing the infinite game. Because also what we want to stay away from is development should not only happen every 5 years. Development should happen in a continuous iteration where 1% improvement every single day. A Gambian who is 10 years right now, by the time they're 30 years old, that 1% increment is something transformative because they were a group of collective that just were focused on building in spite of. And that's something we definitely, under our current leadership, we will protect. We will protect the authenticity and the credibility of the association because we know why we came together as founders.
Ismail, Dr. Ismail Baji, chairperson of the Builders Association, the Gambia. Thank you so much for being here to talk to us about this very important vision that all of you, including myself, are working on for Gambia and Africa. I really appreciate your time, Doc. Thank you so much. And thank you, Chico, as well, even though we've had a struggle, admitting you here with internet issues back home, but I really appreciate it, sir.
Yep. And just to mention that we'll be having some networking events pretty soon because once again, we want to engage the conversation. And some of our town halls will be virtual because we also want to engage and allow the diasporans to get to know some of the things that we're working with. So definitely follow the Builders on all our platforms. And Ibrahima, we are proud of what you are building because you're more than a bodybuilder. Now you're building a media empire. So really, really proud of
Man.
you.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate you, man. Jambaranga, thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, bye.